Hello everyone, and welcome to the RV Inspection and Care podcast and video. I'm Dwayne, I'm a certified RV inspector, and today we're going to be talking about Newmar Super C RVs, and we're going to try to answer the question, are they really the best Super Cs you can buy? Well, one thing my trip to the Hershey RV show taught me this year is that Super C RVs are definitely gaining in popularity. In fact, it seems more so than Class A's. Now, a while back, I made a video that actually compared Class A diesel pushers to Super C RVs, and it's a very fair comparison, because really they both sit right at the top of their individual categories in the RV world. Now, some of the advantages that I mentioned that Super Cs have are, number one, they can have a huge towing capacity, up to 30,000 pounds. That's a lot. Also, another advantage is you have that engine right out there in front of the RV, so there's easy access to it. And that's really good, because in a diesel pusher, it's way back in the back of the coach, hidden under the floor of the bedroom. So to work on it, you've got to take the floor up to get to it. There's limited space, and a lot of repair shops actually don't even want to work on diesel pushers because of that. But because the Super C has the engine right out there, there's easy access. It's like any other normal commercial truck for them to work on. Another advantage for Super Cs is the safety features that are built into them, more so than Class A's. You very often are going to find built-in airbags, and that's great. But also, consider that if you have a front-end collision, well, they got to go through that engine compartment to get to the driver and passenger, and that's going to take a lot to do that. Whereas in a diesel pusher, well, you're sitting right up there, right up front, where the front of the RV is, and it's going to be very easy to be affected by a front-end collision. The next advantage that we can talk about is the sleeping options in Super Cs. And really, this is true of any Class C RV. You have the advantage of having that area that goes out above the cab in the front, and that's usually used for sleeping areas. So if you have family, or if you have family over, it's a great place for them to be able to sleep. And usually there's more sleeping options in Super Cs than you find in Class A diesel pushers. The next advantage is that the driver and the passenger each have their own door. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it is a lot of convenience. And finally, Super Cs handle a lot of weight very well, just like Class A diesel pushers do. So what does that mean? It means that if you buy a Super C, you're not going to give up much in the area of amenities and luxuries, because the manufacturers can definitely put them in. They can handle that kind of weight. Well, those are the advantages of Super C, so let's talk about Newmar and their Super Cs that they offer. Now, they have two of them, and the first is the Superstar. The second is the Supreme Aire. And I was able to personally inspect and go through them very closely at the Hershey show. And that was great, because sometimes it's hard to find these two rigs out there at dealers at the same time. But there they were. It was so easy to go through and inspect them. Now, I will say this too. There was a lot of people going through these rigs. So clearly there's interest in them, a lot of interest out there. Now let's take a look at the specs, and let's compare each of these RV models, and that way we can see what they actually have to offer. Now, first of all, we'll start with the Superstar, and I'll show you a little bit of the interior photos. as I'm going through the specs here. And the first spec I want to talk about is the chassis. It's built on a Freightliner M2 chassis, very popular. Newmar chose a Cummins 360 horsepower engine there, very common engine for use for RVs, with 1,150 foot-pounds of torque, and that's a lot of torque to get you up and going. There are 5 floor plans to choose from, and they start at 37 feet in length and go up to 40. So you can get a shorter Super C here, and that's good news. The weight of the rig, well, its gross vehicle weight rating comes in at 40,000 pounds. Heavy rig. And it can tow 20,000 pounds. That's a lot of towing. And the cargo carrying capacity is 6,000 to 7,000 plus pounds of cargo. A lot of cargo. And when we're talking about cost, well, Newmar says that the MSRP is going to start somewhere in the area of about $505,000. Now let's move to the Supreme Aire. And while you're looking at some of its interior photos, let's cover the specs. First of all, it's the same chassis, the Freightliner M2 chassis, but this time it has the Detroit diesel 525 horsepower engine. That's a monster. And the torque is incredible at 1,850 foot-pounds of torque. Man, that's a lot, but you're going to need that to move this heavy rig. You'll see what I'm talking about shortly. There are 4 floor plans that you can choose from, and they start at 41 feet of length and go up to 44. So when you look at it, Newmar is offering you a Super C somewhere between 37 feet with the Superstar, all the way up to 44 feet with the Supreme Aire. That's a good coverage of length. The gross vehicle weight rating of this one is 52,000 pounds. Towing capacity comes in around 20,000 to 30,000 pounds, and that is a lot to be able to roll down the highway with. Cargo carrying capacity is likewise very eye-opening at 8,000 to 10,000 pounds plus. That's a lot of cargo to be able to put into a rig. And finally, the cost, the MSRP, according to Newmar, will start around $744,000. Now, clearly, both of these coaches are not cheap. They are for high-end buyers. They're not made for the average RV buyer. But actually, when you start thinking about it, they're still not as expensive as many diesel pusher motorhomes out there being made right now. So for some buyers on the higher end, these are actually going to be more affordable choices than Class A diesel pushers. So what kind of overall build quality then did I find in them when I went through and inspected them? Well, if you follow my channel for a while, you know that I cover Newmar quite a bit. And not long back, I made a video about Newmar's build quality. And I'm going to put a link to that video in the description of this video and podcast, and you can go check out what I had to say there. Let me just say, everything I said in that video applies to their Super Cs as well. It's very clear from my inspection, going through, checking out everything I could look at in these RVs, that Newmar's building them with care, with attention to detail throughout the coach. So let's answer the question I asked at the beginning. Are they really the best Super Cs you can buy? Well, in my opinion, I would have to say that they are certainly among the best Super Cs that you can get on the market these days. I think they would be a great choice for those who want a lot of tow capacity. If that's what you want, well, you're going to get it with these rigs. Also, they're great choices for full-timers. These rigs are meant to handle the stresses of full-time living. They're also great for those who have children because they have more sleeping areas in them. And maybe if you don't have children, but you have family over to stay with you, well, it would be a great choice because of the extra sleeping arrangements. And finally, it would really be a good choice for anyone who is safety conscious. They're thinking a lot about it, and they want extra safety features as they're going down the road. Well, the bottom line for me is then that, in my opinion, Newmar is building very high quality Super C motorhomes. But what I encourage you to do is, if you think you might be interested in this kind of RV, go find them to test drive. Check them out for yourself, and then you decide. And that's it for now. Have safe and happy travels, my friends. Until next time.